Welcome to this segment of BeSimply. Today we are speaking to Sean C. Kennedy. He's a singer, a songwriter, a wise man from Scotland, currently residing in Tennessee. Without further ado, let's dive in with Sean.
Growing in the garden, she's everywhere, like an ocean. It's her potion, blowing in the wind. She's everywhere, and I find the beauty in everything, 'cause she finds the beauty in everything.
So, Sean, I'm so excited to be speaking with you. It's been a slow meander for both of us, our lives to cross paths. And I think it's
Yes.
the perfect moment as we're entering into this new year. I want to just dive in to share kind of a little bit of background for people that don't know you, because you span from athletics to creative song expression, musician, aka musician,
hmm
and I think an inspirer, a motivator to keep one well. So those are kind of the three ways I've connected to you. If you can share a little bit how your arc of life has led you from maybe the young, motivated, inspiring
hmm
athlete
hmm
to I don't know, the romantic musician with a story to
Yeah, I guess
tell.
that's people are definitely that's the outlook that they have. I'll take it, right? I
Yeah.
love romantic movies and all that. So yeah, grew up in Scotland. Most of my born there, born and raised, and then started to venture over to the US. Actually, my grandmother's sister moved to Atlanta a long time ago. So when I was a toddler, I would travel to, lucky enough to come across the Atlantic Ocean with my family. And
Mm.
there's a picture of me 3 years old with a Georgia Bulldogs t-shirt on and an ice cream cake at 3 years old. So the US has obviously been I've been a part of it, and it's been a part of me for like a long time. And then growing up watching movies. So, but yeah, I lived most of my life in Scotland, and then I made trips to like New York and LA. Not as long a stint as I do. I'm based in Nashville now, but
Mm.
I went to New York, did the marathon and stuff like that. So I'd spent a little bit of time, but majority of my days were spent playing football, which you guys have adopted the name called soccer, which makes no sense. We'll
Yeah,
not go
but we
there.
know, we do know what football, I mean, that means. Yes.
Football, yeah.
Yeah.
The people are like, you do kick it with your foot majority of the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was most of my days, and that was the thing that came easiest to me growing up, and then as a youth, I was in playing with professional teams, and then you come up towards you're like 18, and that's when you start to venture into first team
Mm.
football, and that's when it really becomes like a are you made for this or are you not? Because
Right.
you're going through your adolescence, your body changes, are you strong enough, your height, there's so many things. What I have now found out, and I've probably known for a few years, but the admittance of it is hard work is everything. Like everyone's
Yep.
talent, everyone's has the amount of talent. And I've learned recently that I almost have to tell myself that I'm not talented because my ego
Oh.
will take over that. So
Mm.
this is a new thing for me where
Yeah.
we all know hard work will beat talent every day of the week until talent
Yeah.
works hard. But David
Mm.
Goggins, who I'm sure you've probably heard of, phrased it differently. He's like, people don't know how to go beyond the talent because their ego won't let them.
Mm.
So the dismantle of that. So another extra, it's
Beautiful.
maybe an extension that we can jump to, but
Yeah.
so did that most of up until 19, and then I ended up having a few operations on my right knee, which was a random defect that the doctor had claimed that it was a wear and tear thing. So
Mm.
anyway, I had to get these operations, and one led to the next. I had to get a stem cell bone transplant, I was one of the first in the UK to have that done. So I
Wow.
had to have bone removed from my knee, and they cloned my cartilage. And 12 weeks later, after being in a lab in Germany, they brought these cells back and injected them into the hole. And then a year later it turned back to bone. So for
Wow.
me back then was being like 19 or 20 years old. I would never have thought like that's cool. I just thought like I'm not going to play football again. My
Yeah.
life's ruined. I'm depressed. What am I going to do
Right.
now? So I went through that whole spiritual awakening when I was that young, and I know a lot of people may have been they've went through it when they're younger than that. I also like watched my mum go through depression 2 years prior to that, so
Mm.
I'd also been feeling the emotions of my mum's life as well because one, it's my mum. Two, my love for my mum, my family. There's also a huge respect for women just in general, like that.
Mm.
I understand the energy and I have good conversations with women probably more than I do men.
Mm.
And maybe that's just I've been blessed to be around
Yeah.
unconditional love, like from my grandmother, my mom, and my sister.
Yeah.
So I felt that prior to even going through my own spiritual journey. Fast forward many years, I didn't realize that in Chinese medicine theology that you hold your emotions for your mother and your knees.
Yeah.
So it was like I've been holding that. I've been holding my mum's feelings, where energy in my knees, and then I go through because there was no explanation for it. So that
Yeah.
was a huge thing, huge ordeal at that age to go over, and my ego being crushed. It's like this is who I'm supposed to be. Like this is
Mm.
it. And it wasn't till, as you say, when depression is the deep rest state, where it's not till you go to the very bottom that hopefully, if you're lucky enough that you get out of it, that
Yeah.
you rediscover a new person. You literally become a different person, and it's a
Mm.
choice. Sometimes you don't have a choice because it's thrown at you,
Yeah.
but you get this little sparkle of something. You're like,
Mm.
oh, that's for me. And that was my first kind of spiritual moment of when I was couch bound and on crutches. I was on crutches for 2.5 months, and I couldn't put my foot on the ground because of the style of operations in my joint. So
Right.
that was very challenging. So playing computer games all this time, free, and music's in my family, but it just wasn't, the frequency wasn't in there. It
Right.
wasn't coming through me for me to express myself. So
Yeah.
I would just put my iPod in the docking station, take a shower for 30 minutes, nowhere else to go.
Yeah.
And then I must have just started to just download it. And
Mm.
then my family, my sister had heard me singing a couple of songs, and she's like, "You were tone deaf, like tone deaf." And she was like, "No way." And then it kind of came out, and she said to my dad, and my dad was very, he just like, his decision was made. He's like, "Oh, he's going to be a footballer. He's definitely not in music," because that would have came out early on. And then he was shocked the most, I think so. So then he said, if you want to get into a band, local band, and you want to pursue this songwriting thing, like then shop around and try and see who's available. So I ended up going out that night, and I went to the, still on crutches. I was like, I'm going to go to the pub, meet my friends, just don't have to stay in all the time. So I
Yeah.
went there and I met a guy from high school who was in a locally successful band, and he was asking what happened. It's like long story. And I said, "How about you? How's," and just off the top of my head, like, "Everything going well with your band?" He's like, "It's actually been amazing, but it's crazy. The singer just left last week." And I'm like,
Oh.
"Is this for me?" And then, and that was it. It was my first spiritual
Mm.
moment of this is for me, Forrest Gump moment here. Um,
Yeah.
and then I joined a band for a year. Couldn't write songs, couldn't play guitar. Was never one to stand in front of a crowd and speak on a microphone. Never mind sing. So just threw myself in the deep end, and that was my early apprenticeship. And then I wanted to extend it and learn more about songwriting, do the singer songwriter thing, pick up guitar, and the band kind of slowly fizzled out. They had really good full time day jobs, and I was working full time at the time in construction,
Mm.
and I was working for my dad. And it's, if there's anyone out there that knows to work for your parents, it's not easy. It's an
Yeah.
amazing thing. Also, you have to be better than every single person in the company because
Mm.
you don't get an excuse. And that was
Right.
something my dad had to learn from his dad, and then from me from my dad. So he came in one day. I was going on vacation with my friends, and he came in on the Friday. He's like, "When you come back from your holiday, do you want to quit your job and give it a go?" And I'm like, "Quit what?" He's like, "Do you want to stop working? Because I think you should give this a shot, and I'll take you as far as I can
Mm.
go." And if I can't
Wow.
take you any further, that's it. And to this day, like, it'd make me like well up. I was like, who does that? So, and it's not just like, oh, that's my son and like biased. He's like, no, you should give it a shot because I know what it's like. My dad toured for a long time in the 70s and 80s and
Oh, okay. That's where that came
met,
from.
yeah, I met my mom and then tried this solo thing and got in the wedding scene, had a family.
Yeah.
But he had a couple of really great opportunities and experience traveling on the road to Scandinavia and all over
Mm.
Europe. So it's in there. So it always was. It just
Yeah.
took a bit of a painful way to get to me. So, but yeah, there was, and
That's
then four
beautiful.
years. I think I played my first show by myself with an acoustic guitar, the songs I'd written, in the September of 2010. So even though it seems like 13 years ago almost, it still feels like it was yesterday. So, um, and then I came to Nashville 4 years after. I just never really looked back, and that was it.
Mm.
So,
Beautiful.
but yeah, there's,
Beautiful.
as you know, there's many extensions of if you're willing to grow and you enjoy growing. There's many extensions that then become of you. So
Yeah.
a
Well,
lot's
I
happened
love,
since I moved. Yeah.
yeah, and I love how your father, I was curious. I was like, wow, because that's very atypical.
Hmm.
So, but he had it in
Yeah.
his roots.
Yeah,
He's
it's in
like,
there, and my great grandpa as well was a tenor
mm,
singer. Always carried the
yeah.
harmonica in his pocket, so it's in there. It was just it had to be. That's the way it had to be to find its way through me.
Mm,
So my mum
yeah.
was a dancer as well, so there's all sorts. It's all in there. It's all in there.
Yeah, definitely. And
Hmm.
you have a knack for, like I said, a romantic, but it's telling a story with your songwriting. Can
Thank
you
you.
share where that arrived from? Is it something that was always there, storytelling, writing in the family?
Yeah, I mean, I think I do. I believe that most of it comes from like the energy that runs through my family. Like I've
Mm,
been blessed to like beautiful grandparents that unconditional love and that cuts through your family. Not every family's perfect, that's for sure, but we've had our moments also. But my mum and dad met. It couldn't have been a more romantic story. They met at a
oh,
tribute to Elvis's life when Elvis passed away in '77. So that's
mm.
why I have the number everywhere. It's
I
why I
was
have the
gonna ask you,
77. Yeah.
yeah.
So
Hmm.
they had yeah, they met. Mum was dancing to Elvis songs, and my dad would come on stage with his band and perform Elvis songs back in
Mm,
Glasgow. And then the two of them really are verbally like they've admitted and said that I couldn't tell you what came over me as soon as I saw your dad's like I'm going to marry that guy, but like I've never spoke to him. He's a front man in the band. There's no way
yeah.
that I could get to him. And my dad said the same thing. He's like, as soon as I saw your mum's like I'm going to marry her, and I was like,
Mm,
that's a rarity. You don't hear that.
yeah.
So that's as like I said, that doesn't mean it's perfect from then there on out. But it's a beautiful story, and it does happen. So
Yeah.
there's that energy that's there, and mum and dad were always very inspiring, whether it was like songs or like movies. A lot of the greatest movies, like growing up, like that was being fed into me and my sister. I have an older sister, so
Mm,
that it's in there. It's the energy and like the spirit that's in there. So, um, and if you want to put it down to, I'm a Cancer, so it's like I'm a very feely person, and I
yeah.
have good intuition, and I pick up on people's emotions. But I look at a Cancer. If when a Cancer gets to understand what a Cancer is, it's like a superpower if you know how to control your emotions because
Absolutely.
there's so much of it, and people get very overwhelmed so easily. So I kind of know when to like funnel it, and especially
Yeah.
coming in my songs. I could be some songs I could just go all out on emotion if I want to. So
Yeah.
I mean, I've gotten better over the last couple of years of working on new stuff is pinpoint it and like hit it really hard in certain moments. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so that energy is just all there. Is I do
Mm,
think it's based from like family. That's what it is. My grandmother's got a lot to play. Like just her energy in general, just who she was. Like that comes through my bones. It's really
yeah.
interesting. And I wouldn't want anything different because the effect that she had on everyone else. It's like, why should I not have that energy going through? Um,
Yeah.
and it's natural. It's not like I look at her picture every day. It's like, cool, help me here, grandmother.
You
Even
feel
though
her.
I'll talk to people that have passed on all the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, the romanticism probably comes from family, and I do love movies. I do some videography on the side just as a hobby and extra jobs, but I just love visual, and also have like a collected synesthesia over the last few years where I describe like I see colors, but I don't actually see them.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
you probably see why that painting behind me has got a lot
Yeah.
of random colors of
Color.
John Lennon.
Yeah.
But yeah, I describe it so people understand like I see it, but I don't see it. It's like a feeling. So when
Yeah.
I meet people, they remind me of a color.
Oh,
Um, and then the same with music. If I know, especially when I'm working on production, I know I can get to the finish line because I could always see the color, and it makes
yeah.
me feel a certain way. So sounds are colors to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
beautiful. Like
mhm.
the chakra system.
Totally, yeah. Like I have a
Yeah.
song called Big Heart that I brought out. I was like, this it's the heart, but the artwork was all green, and that's the way
Mm.
it made me feel.
Yeah.
So yeah, colors,
Beautiful.
movies, it's all visual. It's probably the romantic part of
Yeah.
my creativity.
And what color does your system typically operate? Heart, and then what else? What colors
Yeah,
do you operate from?
I mean, when I definitely in my mind, I always have like a pink or like a
Mm.
lavender color that's always there. I feel like that color never really dies out of feeling good. It's like
Yeah.
a pick me up color, or it's happy, or it's
Yeah.
in love. I don't know. Yeah, I think that's the one that I always see like more in my, I guess, my frontal lobe and stuff like that. But
Yeah. Oh, the Sacred
yeah,
Heart. The Sacred Heart.
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm gonna call it the Buddha self, but your wisdom self. So that's beautiful. You're
Yes.
definitely driven by listening on a deeper level.
And
So,
I'm also trying to be better when someone, not that I talk over the top, but because we just thought if you're really you really enjoy conversation, it's easy for you also. If you're a good person, you're a good listener, it's still very easy for you to like, I know what I'm going to say next,
yeah.
instead of being like wait till they're finished, because there might be an extra little magic that they're about to tell you. Let them finish. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Hmm. Hmm.
And how would you say through your awakening to even some of your mastery over your zodiac, we'll call it,
Mm.
your emotions, how helped you through understanding depression? Because I've seen you share some of your on social media, just like encouragement to others.
Hmm.
Um, how has that all been intertwined, and how much do you rely on that for yourself and help to share it
Hmm.
with others?
Hmm. Yeah, it's of course, me going through, even early on, watching my mum go through depression. My uncle was also schizophrenic for most of his life.
Mm,
He unfortunately passed away a couple of years ago, just fell in his sleep as well, which it makes it more comforting for sure. But
yeah.
he was a very rare type of person, and like mindful. He was very loving as well. Like everything was just all about family. There was never any
Mm,
erratic, scary words thrown out there. It was all just
yeah.
for pure love. So I also came from that background, and I'm a very patient person. So I enjoyed sitting with his time because
Mm,
he liked to just be in silence or talk about something that not many people would want to talk about and go there. And I'm like, oh, I'll go there because I've felt my own, whether it's depression or everything, every emotion that you can think of is like, I felt like in my own personal journey, I experienced it at an earlier age. So I've been living with it for a little longer. I've
yeah.
also been, I was also the kid that really liked to wander off. I had like a harness on me when I was, my mum had a harness on me when I was a toddler. So that was a true sign of like, he's going to go somewhere and keep an eye on him. So coming to
Uh,
America and being on my travels, following like my instinct, took a lot of chances of this feels right. No one will understand me, but I have to do this. And then
yeah.
my parents would be like, I don't know how you knew that was going to happen. I was like, I didn't, but I had a feeling about something. I just had to do it.
Mm,
Um, and of course, going through, like I say, like the depression that I felt, and it was like a painful depression because it was a severe operation.
mm,
So I know how to like execute the amount of like emotion and pain and feeling. Um,
yeah.
so coming over here, and then the world of TikTok and Instagram, and I remember I was like, I feel okay about just like talking here. Like I would never. Some people may think I remember one of my closest friend became my closest friend, and he's like, early on, I was like, you are so intimidating, and I was like, me? I'm not. Don't say that. You can't say that to cancer. Like I will like. I was like, what do you mean? And he's like, no, no, you're just like so comfortable in your skin. I was like, I don't. I mean, you could say that. But it took a lot to like be okay
Yeah.
with just talking.
Yeah.
And even talking on stage in between songs is like I could talk forever. I don't. I was never like that. I was like a shell, like growing up,
Yeah.
because I had all this emotion that was trapped in there.
Right.
Um, so I realized that like if I just talk about how I feel, I'm not trying to change anyone's mind. I'm not looking for help. I'm just telling
Mm.
people how I feel. I'm just putting it out there, which then gives them the doors open for them to be like, oh, maybe I can talk about mine.
Yeah.
So I've realized that it's a very it's like a beautiful little meadow that people have never seen before, but they've always wanted to go to a really nice meadow and walk in. It's like, oh, it's kind of like the yellow brick road scene. It's like this is
Yeah.
actually a place. It's like
Yep.
no, you can actually go there, because I think the most important thing in our life is just to become more peaceful.
Mm.
You know,
Oh,
and
yeah.
people won't admit it, that they won't turn around and it's like, I just want to be peaceful. It's like we're doing all these things because that's what we want, but you won't say that's what it is.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I think it just got easier just talking about how I felt, and I realized like this is really helping people, and especially my songs. Like over the last couple of years, everyone's adopted copious amounts of different emotions and feelings and anxiety and depression,
Yeah.
more than they ever thought they would. And of course, there's many
Yeah.
reasons why. So I realized, especially my song "Let Life Love You" is literally the emails I've had from people.
Yeah.
Because I still get shocked all the time when someone messages me and says, "Oh, I've been listening to your music," and I'm like, "You listen to my music? What?"
Mm.
Because that was never my goal.
Yeah.
But it's never my goal. But it's a goal of how I can help people now. It was never my goal in the first place. So it's a shock to my system. So it's
Yeah.
another reminder of like I need to accept what I've been given more, even though I tell myself like, oh, I know I've been given a gift and I know how to use it. It's a reflection back on myself. It's like these people actually they
Yeah.
need you. No one needs anything, but they actually do need you, because it's letting you know what your capabilities of helping people are.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
so yeah, it's been between just talking, whether it's talking on TikTok or whatever, because our musicians, we do our songs and we try and get attention for our music. And then one day I was like, whatever, I'm just like, it was like a 10-second video. And I said, if you're not in love with God, if you're not in love with the universe, then I'm not interested. Or something like, if you're not open to
Yeah.
everything. It was just a
Yeah.
throw off.
Yeah.
And it was like 100,000 views in like 2 hours or something. I was like, oh, of course I just have to remind myself to just be myself. So
Absolutely.
just just talking, and also realizing that it's helping me, because it's like I'm talking to a therapist or something. Like the internet's a therapist for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then it's like it's going to help someone else while it's helping me. So it's like if I get this off my
Absolutely.
chest, it's the conversations that I hope everyone else has them in the morning in the shower, but I have a conversation with myself in the shower. I'll play out scenarios that are going on in my head. I'll
Mm.
answer them back.
Yeah.
So if I can get that stuff off my chest this way, one, it might not even be real or happening. It might be in
Yeah.
my mind, but if I even speak it out, it's already gone before it might happen.
Yeah.
like a like a
Absolutely.
future moment or affirmation. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. Well, and that's actually how I discovered you was TikTok. TikTok's
Oh,
really
cool.
interesting because it's like a raw, I call it the raw and real world where you're just like
Mm-hmm.
it is, you're like you're there talking, you know.
Yeah,
And
it is.
the one that the first segment I ever saw of you was you saying you wanted to go have dinner. It was like you were talking just
Mm.
like your future love and you're like,
People don't know. They don't know what I was talking about. Most people still haven't figured out what I was on about. I was talking about my song.
"Oh,
I don't know if
that's
they knew
awesome."
that. I
I
was trying
didn't
to let
I
people know that I'm in a relationship with my song, and I was like,
oh,
I want to take you. Like, I was waiting to
I
see if
love
anyone
it.
would jump on it. So yeah.
Oh, we'll have to tag it in because
Hmm.
I had literally just had a session with, I work with people one on one, and
Hmm.
uh, right after I gotten off that session, your face it comes up. She's
It popped
looking for a
up.
relationship, so probably on my phone is listening or whatever. Anyway, so and then
The
it's
For
like
You
just
page is a
imagine.
really, it's a really beautiful thing, right? Yeah.
Yeah. But anyways, it was beautiful. I'm like, oh, and like I'm like, see, it's out there. Like I said, see, the potential is out there. Other people are thinking of this. So I didn't, that's
Yes.
a new aha for me that you were speaking of your song. So that's
I was trying to
beautiful.
see if someone would click onto it, and I was like, because someone said a friend I was on our podcast. I'm going to forget the name of it right away because my head's running. But um, when I was on the podcast, and she said to me, and it totally opened up my perspective of not just the music creators but the listeners. And she said, "I think I'm in a relationship with your song," and I'm like, "That's the most amazing thing I've ever heard." Like that's what
Yeah,
a songwriter wants to hear. She's like, "I'm literally in a relationship with your song." And I was like, "Wow." And I was like, people talk about like, wow, I really wish I could play guitar. I wish I could sing. And like, I love music, but I really wish I could. People don't get enough credit. It's like, so what would the world be if it was filled with the amount of songwriters and artists there is today if no one's there to listen to it?
right.
It would be a
Yeah.
pointless thing. So people have
Yeah.
to understand it's a virtue to listen and understand music, just as probably more than it is to actually create it.
Yeah.
When people look at it
Absolutely.
vice versa the other way, because music's so easy to take in and receptive to it. But I was
Yeah.
like, that's another thing that people don't talk about is like it's a virtue to listen to music, to be able to
Absolutely.
resonate with it.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, and share a little bit because you have quite the nostalgia to your presence
mm,
and even what your creative expression is, the cinematographer in you. Uh, can you share a little bit about how you feel about, the old vinyl to needle,
mm,
where there's a huge, I would say, in the generation of like the early 20s that they really want to go back. They'll always say, I want to go back to the 70s. Like
yeah.
they have a yearning. They don't really want the tech. So can you share a little bit about your thought of that? Because, the
Hmm.
further we go down this AI world where they're even talking about writing songs, like I'm like, I don't think I really want to listen to a machine written song. I want to listen to your song
No,
that's a heart,
exactly.
there's
Hmm.
a humanness to it. You
Hmm.
can't, it's not going to be perfect because
Yeah.
that's the beauty of humanity, imperfection versus
Hmm.
perfection.
Hmm.
So share your vantage on all this that, there's like these
Hmm.
worlds pulling and colliding and trying to figure each other out right now.
Um, here's my like first thought on that is there's going to be a decision split between two roads,
Mm,
and this is talking about moving forward, humanity sense. I think
yeah.
there's a road that's going to fork off into two, and it's a decision that you're going to make. As soon as you make the decision, I don't think you'll be able to come back from it. Not like in a really drastic, sad thing, but in regards to that AI, is you're going to choose to be real and want real things in your life, or you will go down that road and it will always be that. So you'll always
Yeah.
be you'll always be distracted, and that's
Yeah.
what everything is. Everything's a distraction and making you drift off from like who you are, get back to the feeling that only you know feels good to you and always stay in that feeling. Because everything
Yeah.
else just pulls you out of that feeling. I'm going through that like right now of it's like, oh, I know what's happened, get back to the feeling. It's like the
Yeah.
things that you really want from your life, Sean, and the space that you want to be in or wherever your dream house is or whatever it is. You have to stay in the feeling of it. And that's something that
Mm,
I'm trying to improve at, keep reminding myself is like it's the feeling, it's nothing else. Everything else in between doesn't exist until you actually get to the feeling. Or you
mm,
shouldn't know how it exists and how to figure it out. So in regards to moving forward and the whole like AI thing and I I must be crazy then, but because putting in a physical disc and people have never watched a video and hit, like the way those needles move inside to that
yeah.
to create music is mind blowing because everyone thinks it's the fact that it comes out of your phone is like, wow, that song's great and its music's great and it's created through there. It's like, imagine how when you first picked up a vinyl and played it, it's like, how did they put the music in here? How did they do it?
Yeah.
And you go on YouTube and watch the videos, and even the shape of the needles, like zoomed way in a
Yeah.
microscope, and you're like, this is the most one of the most amazing inventions to create that. But now there's nothing more than being present than literally taking a physical vinyl, put it in there. You can't go and skip it, because that's another thing that we're all moving too fast, and we're all eager to get to the finish line. There's no finish line anyway. I know why you're all trying to rush for. People are overtaking in the highways. Like, you may be late for your meeting, but there's nowhere else to go after that.
Yeah, exactly. Oh,
But yeah, it's the thing. It's to stay in the moment and not get distracted, because the further that you get away from like yourself and the way that you're supposed to feel, like your loving self, the way your body is
yeah.
vibrating, is going that way. But I
Yeah.
want to go this way,
Yeah.
and I won't
Well,
ever go that way. That you can throw me off a bridge. It's like, I ain't going that way. I'm not doing it, honestly.
yeah. Well, in the
Mm-hmm.
Hopi prophecy, I have a connection to Hopi Nation. They're an
Mm.
indigenous tribe out in Arizona, and they talk of
Wow.
these two paths that are happening right now where
Mm.
uh, humanity will choose. And so you
That's
speak
it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
exactly of what's happening.
Mm.
And speak a little bit about the beauty of finding music. So, you know, I've gone through in working with the music industry and then coming from when I was a kid, I'll date
Mm-hmm.
myself a
Mm-hmm.
little bit. When I was a kid, we had to search out our music. And then
Yeah.
the only time that you could get the music, like, get an overview was Sunday. They would like play on the radio. And then
Mm.
once they introduced tapes, you could record your
Yeah, you could.
favorite
Yeah,
song.
you could. Yeah, totally.
But now,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there was such a beauty to that, and there was a serendipity to it because I'm kind of amazed at some of the music that I found.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it stayed with me, like it made an imprint, and then later on. So, can you share a little bit more about the value of that, even having the woman that interviewed you and shared about having a relationship with your lyrics? Because that's also what we used to do. We would like read all the lyrics and we'd memorize the songs and we would
Yeah.
sing them
Mm-hmm.
together. Where now it's
Mm-hmm.
kind of, it goes fast. Like you said, everything goes a little
Yeah.
too
Yeah.
fast. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think I've been, as I say, I've been lucky enough to be born in a house where a musician lives, and living in that world. It's like coming from that generation of how he learned and what did it for him. How did my
Yeah.
dad and my mum, they talk about like all these amazing bands and artists and when they first heard them. And I keep asking the same questions when I was back home at Christmas time. I mean, we were in the Isle of Skye, and me and my dad took us, we drove by ourselves. Mum was just chilling out. So two of us boys just hit the road, and then we just started to listen to some older stuff. And I started to puzzle my dad. And he's told me before, I'm like, so what happened when where were you when you heard David Bowie for the first time? And my dad, like, here we go. Like, I can just tell that this is one, this is what I want to hear, and two, like, this is the question you should be asking me. And he just talks about it. I'm like, how exciting. It's not like you have all these options of where to find new music like you did back then. So you only really had, I guess, a couple of places that you would find new music, whether it's the radio or like word of mouth if someone heard it on the radio.
Yeah.
So I was like, what was it like, Dad? And he says, he's like, I just don't know what it was that was coming through the radio. It's like, I've never heard anything like this. And I think like there's 60,000 songs a week come out on Spotify and Apple Music or whatever.
Yeah.
And like you were saying, it was so exciting because you knew on a Sunday that you could maybe hear something new,
Yeah.
and there wasn't. It's a beautiful thing that there's so many people creating music, but it's harder to be blown away and surprised.
Yeah.
And I think the thing that I want in my life now is to be shocked all the time, and it's more like that in conversation. I mentioned this before Christmas, where I thought that I thought that I should always want to relate to everything that someone's telling me. The
Mm.
conversation they're having with me, I was like, I need to relate in my head. And it's like, that's another thing that I'm trying to stop myself in my tracks and
Yeah.
say, no, Sean, you're trying to, your survival instincts kicking in because they want you to let you know that you're surviving rather than be just step back and just look for the next thing that I'm going to be shocked by. That's why sometimes when I'm writing in the room with my best friend or whoever it is, and we say something and we burst out laughing.
Mm.
We're laughing because we're in shock.
Yeah.
We've never heard it before. Instead of being like, "Oh, that's like everything else." Like,
Right.
so that's what I want. It's like, well, that means it's good because I'm in shock.
Right.
Sorry, I've got a little thing that's just coming up on my computer. Hopefully it goes away. You can still see me, okay?
Yeah, I can see you. You're in flash freeze, but I can hear you
Oh,
perfectly. It's all good.
okay.
It'll probably
Um,
record just fine anyways.
okay. Let me just close something just in case. I don't know why it's doing this. Maybe that'll help the process. Nope.
It's all
My
good. There
computer.
you are.
Oh, okay. That helps a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So I just want to be like it's the shock thing, and that's why
Yeah.
shock culture. Not everyone loves it these days because things are being said. People like, oh. It's like, yeah, you're not used to it. That's why we need to like digress. We need to like listen and respond in a healthy
Mm.
manner, whatever
Yeah.
whatever it is, because we're in shock. It's like
Right.
it's actually good to be shocked because that means that you're not comfortable.
Yeah.
It's like who wants to be comfortable all the time? I do love my certain foods and doing certain things that make me feel comfortable, but I want to be shocked.
Yeah.
Um, so I
Well,
think that
share.
thing for David Bowie, yeah, and
Yeah,
that's what
go
I
ahead.
wanted.
Keep going.
I want to find
Yeah.
it. I want to be shocked in that world of new music, but it's very hard. Very hard.
Yeah. Well, and share a little bit about even in the healing process. Oftentimes, when people have gone through trauma, I'm going to take a leap that
Mm.
you know the answer to this. Uh, Depression, all of those things that typically because of fear or shock, initial
Hmm.
shock from the trauma, they
Hmm.
freeze.
Hmm.
But also share the medicinal benefit of shock to move yourself in back into forward motion versus I'm a fellow crab also. So we go
Oh, there you
into
go.
our
That makes
we
that
go
makes
into our
sense. There we go.
shell.
Yeah. Hmm.
We go into our shell. But share a little bit
Hmm.
about the value of shock to help move forward with goals and opportunities and
Hmm.
inspiration.
Hmm. Yeah. Um, especially looking back at like when I was a kid as well, I was just always very curious. Um, and like you say, that's not for everyone. Not every kid. Some kids are. I remember one of my close friends back home. They eventually moved to Australia, but his younger cousin, he didn't talk until he was 8 or 9, something like
Oh,
that.
wow.
And whether he was on the spectrum, the
Yeah.
way I look at it, it's like that's a beautiful thing because it's like,
Yeah.
where's his head at? I want to know what's in his head here.
Yeah.
Um, so like me, I was just very curious. I was always wandering. And then I was maybe like in 11, 12, I was never home. I was in the woods. I was climbing trees. I was doing all the things.
Mm.
And then even when I went to school, I would always be like, yeah, but why? I would always say, but what about this? No, this is the way it is, Sean. It's like, no, but why would... So I would always be curious and always ask questions.
Yeah.
My report card always would say, Sean could do better. But I'm wondering what is the delivery guy delivering outside the window at class? Sean, listen in. And I'm like, yeah, but what is it? I just wanted to figure things out and
Yeah.
see where things were going. Yeah, my curiosity. So the shock. I think the shock part is not getting too comfortable and always want to change. I know when if I'm working a lot in my music and I really love that part and creating, I could just sit for hours and hours, and then I
Mm.
know I'm doing it. It's like that survival instinct is like you need to cut the cord for a second and do something completely different. So
Yeah.
I'm trying to get better at that. I do like the cold showers thing in the morning where I shock my body and go into
Yeah.
that state. Um, so yeah, there's many things. There's a few things that I do in my day to day life that's like helping. There's a lot that I want to incorporate, and because I don't want to get too I don't want it to be too safe.
Yeah.
And then the music as well. I don't know, the shock part of that is I just want someone to do something that's not been done before.
Yeah.
And I don't know where the world, I have my small amount of fan base, and I've always been the person, like the circle here of what's really cool and what's always great and always in. I'm always orbiting the circle. I'm always
Mm,
there.
mm.
It's like I'm the guy on the outside that will, like, if you're all going this way and you all want to keep, I'll go that way.
Yeah.
Like a
Yeah.
minute and a half in, it's like I'm gonna go Steely Dan on you. I'm gonna
Yeah.
go all Steely Dan. People like, not everyone loves Steely Dan, but I was like, what would they do? It's like, yeah, go that way. Because it's boring. Why would they want to just do the same as everyone else? And that's not a negative thing. I just mean I just enjoy that feeling of shock.
Yeah.
Some people are just a very emotive song is a shock thing to me as well. Something that's just hits it really just right. That's a shock
Mm.
as well.
Yeah.
So I think it comes in like many different ways, especially in songs and how they make you feel. Um,
Mm.
my shock is just people tell me that they still listen to my music and my song did this, and that's like that's hard to. That's just someone saying like I really love you, which
Yeah.
I've better take like taking compliments, and if someone tells me I love you, it's like I'll tell you that back. But
Yeah.
that's a way of their songs. The reaction to my song is like I really love you. I was like, oh damn! It's like crush to the
Yeah.
heart again.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
but yeah,
your music is very beautiful. Like I said, it's a
thank you.
very story. It yeah, it has an art form of storytelling that
Hmm.
is oftentimes lost in some music that's made today because it's like
Hmm. Hmm.
put through a very specific machine that makes it very predictable. So
Yeah,
it's nice to have a story in a song, you know.
thank
So
you.
I love
Hmm.
that about and where you've recently released a couple songs this
Hmm.
past year,
Hmm.
and then what are you creating next in the studio? Where's your heart leading you?
Yeah, I mean, I put these two songs out at the end of the year, and these were like my reminders for myself of the music that I loved growing up to, whether that was
Mm,
like U2 or Steely Dan, whatever. So I wanted the like Brian Adams, I wanted all the nostalgia feeling to come back,
mm,
so that 20 years time, I want to say like that's still a good song. I don't care. I don't need anyone's opinion. I just love that. I loved making that. It was almost like Sean as the fan. What does he really want to hear Sean do?
yeah.
And I was like, I had it on the nose, I'm not like a big headed person. I was like, I don't care if it gets X amount of plays or it doesn't, gets attention. I did this for myself. It's like
Right.
I need to start showing like who I am as a musician, songs that I want to perform live as a band that are really
Mm,
gonna feel like a band's playing. I wanted to write that way. So I'm still in that world right now. I've got like so many songs to get through. I do like most of the production by myself, so I have
mm,
friends that play on it, and I just really enjoy it's the sculpture effect of having it in front of me on my screen.
yeah.
Whether it's guitars or bass, whatever, I'll just sit for hours until I find it's like the Tetris, colorful Tetris thing.
Yeah.
It's like there's a wave of colors here, and I need to find the exact pattern. Um,
Yeah.
and my brain just sees it in shapes and colors. So
Mm,
I love that, and I'm working on another couple of songs where follow behind the back of thinking of you, like in Hurts to See You Go. And then I
mm,
have these other songs on the side that there's two or three ready that are also about longing. Everything I'm doing is about longing. That's all it's
yeah.
ever been.
Yeah.
Because and everyone's, as I said this in a video the other day. It's like if you're happily married, you've been married for 45 years, whatever. It's like you still have longing, and you have
Yeah.
longing for something that you don't know what it is,
Mm,
but you have that feeling, and that's good.
yeah.
That means that it's not like you have desperation to find it. I
Yeah.
just want to feel that in my stomach. So that's what I want my songs to be like. What is it
Mm,
like? It's helping me
yeah.
get through it. I want you to feel it in your stomach. It's the way I feel about Scotland when I go home. It's like I just want to
Mm.
feel it in my gut, and that's all I will ever be. Every time I hear it, that's all I want.
Right.
So, and some people, like you say, interpret my songs different, and they get to dissect it for their healing
Yeah.
or whatever, to make them feel better. If they want to dance with their underwear with a vacuum, I
Yeah.
don't know. Whatever your thing is, it's yours to have. But
Yeah.
I'm working on these other ones. And then I started a few days ago. A friend of mine's a female artist that I'm working with. We're just going to do like a male female duet
Mm.
TV and film sync style music. So going to keep myself preoccupied and work on that for a couple of days and finish my own project. So
Yeah.
I realized that when I sat down after I spoke to you, of course, and we eventually got the chance to do this, there was a lot of things that happened. I'm sure for
Yeah.
everyone, I went through a roller coaster, losing a friend and going home. And then I get back and I was gifted some of his musical equipment. His family said, we want you
Oh,
to have this.
beautiful.
So it was like, okay. And even though that was overwhelming, it wasn't until the start of the year I get myself settled in. And I'm like,
Mm.
this is another part of your superpower, Sean, but you're getting
Yeah.
given someone else's. So like
Yeah.
throw it in there. And then I wouldn't have wanted to build that studio or rebuild it, make it bigger and get back into it if I didn't just truly love it. And that's what it is. I
Mm.
sat at the conversation myself. I'm like, I just love doing this.
Yeah. That's
And there's,
beautiful.
and I will get to those aspirations and things I want to achieve and be in my dream house one day. These things are going to happen, but I have to remind myself that the reason I just do it is because I love it. That's it.
Yeah.
And people, it sounds so cliche. I'm sure a lot of people say it, but I'm like, I just have that feeling in my gut. That's all, and that's the only thing that even when I started out doing music, when I had no idea what I was doing, but it's like this is a new discovery of a feeling that I have. I'm just
Yeah.
going to run on this feeling and see where it goes. So I reminded myself at the start of the year, it's like I really don't care what happens. I don't care.
Mm.
I'm just like,
Yeah.
but I'm going to stay in this feeling. This is what I want. So this is the this is probably my New Year's resolution of the reimagine part of
Mm.
myself and just like reimagine, find your feeling and stay in it. So
Yeah.
I've got so much stuff to like in front of me to finish, but it's exciting because as I say, I really enjoy the process.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, it is beautiful. Um, I think you have John Lennon behind you. Is that right?
I do, yeah. Someone,
Yeah. As when you said imagined, I was like, yeah, you're
I just
carrying.
realised I said that actually. Yeah, I've got David Bowie here. I've got the Police. I've got Paul Rogers and Free. I've got Steely Dan, U2. I've got Bob Marley. I've got Prince. I
Nice.
thought if I'm going to
Yes.
create this, I need to have them in here.
Yeah, you
So
have some good
yeah,
people feeding through with you.
yeah. Bring that,
Um,
leave that energy here.
well, when you talk about, the path of like going away, choosing the path, we're all like the human path or the
Yes.
technical robot path, I'll call it.
Hmm.
Share a little bit more about when because I love what you said, like longing, you want to have longing, but
Hmm.
when people take a spiritual path, there's some aspect of learning how to be, I'll say, content, but
Mm.
in the sense of not causing chaos, meaning that you're content with the inner workings, like you said, you've mastered
Yes.
your emotions, but the momentum to move forward. Talk a little bit more about that, how that
Hmm.
longing serves. It's not a grasping, it's like, I see it like you explaining it as a wheel propelling you forward.
Yeah. I think the everything, as I say, I think everything in front of you is a distraction because it's all like you say, it's all an internal feeling, and that's the thing that you should live off. Um, and is it Neville Goddard? Do you know who that is? I'm trying to think.
Mm,
I may get this wrong. I'll maybe send you the names after. I'll forget this on
yeah,
here, but talking about none of this is actually real. None of like
yeah,
they talk about the Matrix thing and stuff. Like
yeah.
none of this is actually real that's happening in front of you, unless it's the feeling makes you feel good.
Mm,
Um, so if everything's a distraction, but there's a distraction that actually makes you feel good, and not the sense of like loving it. Anything. There's so many things that heightened emotions that can make you feel good, and whether if you really want to go and talk about the side of the world, that most men are addicted to porn.
Yeah.
Right. There's that world. Like that's a huge distraction, massive thing, because there's a longing for a feeling from someone. Right. There's this thing that they think it's there. It's not through that though. But the idea through that is somewhere you're almost in the right place. But that's the distraction that you shouldn't pay attention to. So yeah, just using my intuition really just to say like what's a distraction and what's not. While driving the bus, and my feelings are all in here. If you're going to stop the bus, make sure it's a good one. So like that, do you know what I'm saying? So like distraction, like pick your stop wisely, choose your stop wisely. Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. Again, it might not be, I may not be explaining it too well, but it's just the feeling I want to stay in. Whether talking about affirmations and stuff, whether it's the environment that I want to live in further down the road, or it's already here. I have to make myself feel like I already have it. I'm sure you've probably spoken about this type of thing with many people. But I'm just really wanting to work on the feeling. And then catch myself out when I'm drifting. She's like, Sean, no, don't do it. You actually know that you're doing it. Don't do it. And then the two fork road thing, I'll never, like, there's so many things I already know that I will never do. And now it's a conscious decision. It's like, no, that's my foot down. I will never do that. And maybe that's an understanding of you really knowing. I don't know what my soul's name is. Does my soul have a name? I don't think it does. I don't know. It might actually. But I just know that my soul doesn't want that, and my soul shouldn't do that, and I don't want my soul to do that either. Because my intuitions tell me that further down the road that's not good. So, and also physical things, even though I'm saying like most things are not real in front of you. But if I can get a feeling from picking up like a vinyl or like that's a healthy thing. As an example.
It's you're sharing it so beautifully because it's you're breaking down something that's actually very abstract but powerful.
That's what I'm trying.
So but for the listeners, that aspect of you sharing that the longing is actually pulling us to stay in that resonance that our soul is commanding us and telling us to do. And most of the conflict, any kind of addiction, is when we're not listening to the resonance that our soul is guiding us, helping us.
That's for.
It. So
that makes that's articulated way better. Is that your soul's knocking on the door to like, this is it. This is good. This is good. And if you don't hear it,
and we're more than likely on this threshold of that where we have to start listening to our soul, especially if we're choosing the human path, the humanity path versus the robot path.
Yeah. No, it's good. I'm glad that you have some form of interest in asking certain questions like that, because whatever the language, or if I'm interpreting it right, when people are listening to this, it has to be it has to resonate with them because they're maybe at the crossroad.
Well, I think you said something so profound using that word longing, because in our society where we've been led into the sleepy dream is because of grasping, not longing, meaning that they've given us the forbidden fruit to chase after, but the longing actually keeps us on course. So I think that's so beautiful. I hope you write a song called Longing. I don't know if you have already.
We'll definitely be working on it. I think the longing's it's not the need. The longing's not the need for anything.
It's this beautiful dance. And so are you going to play live soon? Do you have anything up and coming in your area?
I've got a couple. I could send you the exact dates. No, I got them off my top of my head. And also trying to come out to out west to like play a couple of shows. My couple of friends here, we'd played at the Hotel Cafe. I'd played a few times before, but we played a few years back, and like we should do another show there. So,
Yeah.
and I keep like meaning to like come out west. I was just picking the right time to do it as well. I've definitely been super comfortable in Nashville with our ways here. I've been blessed with a lot of things. So I'm
Yeah.
just travel
Many
time in the yeah.
many Californians want to flood Nashville.
Well, there's a lot of them here, which at the same time is like I'm always intrigued to hear like why they move, and I'm never surprised. It's
Yeah.
just like these small things, but yeah, I want to come out kind of west and play a couple like shows.
That would be
Some days,
amazing.
yeah, some days you go through like I guess if you're more in your shadow mindset and you're thinking it's like things are not really working out here. Like, should I keep doing this? Should I keep doing that? And it's not until I put a show back home before I came back to the US, and this girl was like, I saw you years ago, and it's been obviously years since you played Scotland, and it's like I just want to like tell you, like just don't ever stop doing this. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah,
And I'm like,
absolutely.
because she's like, I don't know if I could go on without listening to your music, and I'm like, all right, cool. There's another. That's like your soul slapping you in the back of the head.
Yeah,
Like,
the reminders. Yeah.
yeah, and my path was always interesting anyway, even from the get go. So it's like, just stay on the bus, stay in the feeling, and
Yeah.
like reminding myself to like enjoy it. Like I talk
Yeah.
about like whether some of these videos, and maybe I don't enhance, maybe I don't remind myself enough of myself when I'm doing these videos because I know they can help people and I know it's
Yeah.
healing me somewhat. But then
Yeah.
I'm like, you need to also give yourself like a break, give yourself like some grace and all that. To be like, I'm asking people what brings you true joy, and it's like you're literally avoiding it. Ask yourself what brings you joy. So I'm trying to be better at that. Stay in the
Yeah.
things that make you like not just happy, like literally fill you with joy. Like
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. Wow, you're an amazing human being, and I'm glad.
Oh, likewise. Thanks for having me on.
You
Hopefully we can like stay in touch. Whether it is more in a social
absolutely.
sense of helping people, like because
Yeah.
me and my best friend Rob are working on this men's mental health podcast. So it's very early and not vague. It's the feet are planted, but we've got like so many episodes that we have to do before we would put it out.
Yeah.
There's definitely a space there for us to be sharing our thoughts and whatnot, and people have given us feedback. It's like, when is this happening? It's like, cool, that's just a sign to get it done.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, we can even have both of you back on and
Yes.
share and shine a light on it for sure.
And vice versa. That's I want to like have. It's not just to have like people that are depressed and whatnot, and we want to have whether it's holistic people, everything, all the walks of life, because it's all again they're all just trying to like figure it out and help one another.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, I appreciate you being here today. I'm gonna.
Thanks for your questions. Your questions are really great as well.
Oh, I'm glad you
because I enjoy
enjoyed them.
talking about that as well. So
Yeah. No, so hold on. I'm just gonna push pause, and I want to say a informal goodbye.
Still find her growing in a garden. She's everywhere, like an ocean. It's her potion, blowing in the wind. She's everywhere, and I find the beauty in everything, 'cause she finds the beauty in everything. I'm falling through a cloud of violet. I'm drifting out to sea. Her my mind, blooming summer is her purple, glowing in the garden, 'cause she is everywhere. And I find the beauty in everything. She finds the beauty in everything. I'm falling through a cloud of violet. I'm drifting out to sea, her ocean blue. When I don't seem to try, your colors come to life. You always come to my mind, to my mind. I always think of you when the flowers bloom, when I see butterflies or a rainbow too. I'll always find you glowing in the dark. I always find you glowing in the dark. I'm falling through a cloud of violet. I'm drifting out to sea, her ocean blue. When I don't seem to try, your colors come to life. You always come to my mind. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm falling through a cloud, and I'm drifting out to sea. You always come to my mind. Yeah.
Once again, I want to thank you all for being here right now, and Sean for joining us today. That was his song Lavender. And we're going to exit out with two more of his singles. Thinking of You, Hurts to See You Go. And as inspired, please support the arts, the human arts. All his links are below. Sharing is caring. Until next time, this is Suzanne signing out with a full heart, a soft gaze, a deep bow, and a namaste. Be simply.
Sometimes I make a bed, I hear your voice inside my head. Sometimes I come undone, 'cause all my calls don't reach no one. with the boys painting up this town. And chasing girls don't drown you out. Oh. I pretend, but I'm not myself. I'm here not thinking about nobody else, nobody else. Driving in my car, I only get so far. Living in this world like you're still my girl. Somehow you still burn. Oh, in every turn I get that deja vu. I still think of you. Still think of you. What's so long to move on? What's so long to let go? How's it feel to see me? There's nothing but a memory. 'Cause you were fucking happy, dancing at the party. You still got that glow, and I wish you could know. Oh, driving in my car, only get so far. Living in this world like it's still my girl. Somehow you still burn. Oh, in every turn I get that deja vu. I still think of you. Still think of you. Still think of you. Still think of you. Still think of I know not to call, but I'm a little too weak right now. Feeling alone. Am I the only one? Why'd you put on a show? I guess you can't help yourself. Do you know what you're breaking? I need someone to shake you. Oh, you want my love for nothing, and you leave the night wide open. Oh, I just can't be that someone. You know. Oh, how could I forget it? And the way you left me breathless. We were just so close to heaven. You don't know how it hurts to see you go. Hurts to see you. It hurts to see you. It hurts to see you go. Am I losing my senses? 'Cause right now I can't tell. I knew there was magic, but now I'm caught in a spell. Don't know I can do this anymore. When you're keeping it casual, or can you leave my heart at the door? I want you to know, just want you to know that you want my love for nothing, and you leave the night wide open. Oh, I just can't be that someone. You know. Oh, how I just can't be that someone you know that you want.